Could I share my time with my constituency colleague, Deputy Sean Kenny?
What way would you like to share the time?
2.5 each, if you can warn me.
Perfect.
Cathaoirleach, Priory Hall, and Minister, is a residential complex of 187 units on the new main street linking Clongriffin and Belmain in Dublin 13 in the vast new North Fringe residential district of Dublin North East. The estate originally had a mixture of private purchasers, investors and private tenants, Dublin City Council tenants and residents who moved in through the City Council's RAS scheme and affordable housing scheme. Now, I've raised the critical fire safety and building standard problems, indeed disasters, Minister, of Priory Hall at least a dozen times in this and the last all, in all kinds of ways, including at the order of business. Our Fire Chief, Hugh O'Neill, served a fire safety notice under the Fire Safety Acts on Coalport Building Company, which built Priory Hall on September 4, 2009. In this notice, the north and south blocks of Priory Hall, which is the whole estate, Minister, were described as, and I quote, a potentially dangerous building, and the Fire Chief ordered an urgent programme of fire safety remedial measures for the estate to make it safe to live in. And indeed, in December 2009, Dublin City Council moved out our own tenants, our City Council tenants, for their own safety. In April last, at the Dublin District Court, the Director of Coalport, Mr Tom McFeely, received a 6-month suspended sentence and a €3,000 fine, and his former partner, Mr Lawrence O'Mahony, received a 1-month suspended sentence and a €1,000 fine for fire safety notice breaches at Priory Hall. But we don't know what conditions of any minister were attached to those suspended sentence and whether Dublin City Council and in turn your department has monitored compliance. Coalport and Mr McFeely, the developer, have also been referred to the courts in relation to breaches of planning law at Priory Hall. The latest such referral occurred on just June 14th last, and given the very serious breaches concerned, can the Minister provide residents with a full update on current and future planning enforcement proceedings? There are so many outstanding questions that need to be addressed, Minister, by Dublin City Council and yourself relating to Priory Hall. The excellent Residents Committee led by Ms Sinead Power and others have still not been told what works have been completed and certified on the building to ensure that it finally complies with all fire safety regulations and building standards. To know, in fact, Minister, if they're safe at, each evening, each night, if they're actually living in a safe building. Concerns have also been expressed by many residents in relation to the quality of the works now being carried out. I understand, Cathaoirleach, that Dublin City Council has undertaken an investigation into the alleged breaches of the Building Control Acts at Priory Hall by a company called Hayes Higgins. Now, we still haven't got any report from them. The residents of Priory Hall ask why Dublin City Council didn't insist that the developers in question here put a bond in place which could now have been used for all remediation and completion works at the complex. Am I over time?
Just now, exactly on time.
Okay, so I just want to ask you finally, Minister, on behalf of our residents and our constituency, they're so deeply frustrated. I hope you'll ensure that Dublin City Council will now get to grips with this, and you're very welcome, Minister, I know you know the area well, to come out and visit us in Dublin North East. Thanks, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. I wish to add to what my colleague has already said. Dublin City Council recently commissioned Hayes Higgins Partnership Consultant Engineers to carry out an investigation into defects in the construction of Priory Hall. This investigation is now completed, and I would now call on Dublin City Council to publish the report by Hayes Higgins Partnership in the public interest. The case against McFeely and O'Mahony for breaches of the fire regulations were heard in the District Court on the 4th of April, in which Mr McFeely received a fine of €3,000 and a 6-month suspended sentence, and Mr O'Mahony received a €1,000 fine and a 1-month suspended sentence. Since then, there has been a spate of fires in the dumping area used by the building company, which is in an unsecured area and is situated behind hoarding at the end of the development. I am advised by constituents that there were 3 fires in total, 2 of which Dublin Fire Brigade and the Gardaí attended, and 1 which the residents themselves put out. 2 members of the Residents Association advised me that they have reported the last fire incident to Coolock Garda Station. Dublin City Council's Chief Fire Officer directed that both underground car parks in the development should be taken out of use in December 2009 due to flooding, and to date the car parks remain closed, with the result that there is a high volume of vehicles on the road outside the apartment blocks, many of which are parked in front of the hoarding which fronts the builders' dumping area, and thus compounding the risk of any fire spreading and explosions due to the vehicle petrol tanks. The grave concern is that if the hoarding was to catch fire, the fire could spread to the north and south blocks of the development, and the petrol could ignite, and the fire further, we could be faced with casualties which could be avoided. I have queried with Dublin City Council whether the 3 fires in April constitute a breach of the developer's suspended sentences, and I was advised by the Dublin City Council's law agent that any complaints in relation to possible breaches should be communicated to the superintendent of the local Garda station. So on the 16th of this month, Cancora, I wrote to the superintendent in Coolock asking him to investigate the position in Priory Hall with a view to bringing the matter back before the court if the fires constitute breach of the suspended sentences, which I believe they do. It would seem to me that if the position remains the same in this development, it is only a matter of time, Cancora, before there is a serious incident. I would ask the Minister to intervene with Dublin City Council to have this absolute nightmare for residents, which has been going on for years now, brought to a conclusion. Thank you, Cancora.
Thank you, Deputy. Ara.
I'm taking this matter on behalf of the Minister, Minister Hogan, Minister for Environment, Community and Local Government. And I wanted to thank Deputy Tommy Broughan and Deputy Sean Kenny for raising this important matter, and I know they have long-standing interest in relation to this, which has been ongoing. This government is acutely aware of the difficult and distressing situations faced by many homeowners and tenants today, who through no fault of their own are dealing with the consequence of unfinished estates, period problems and other building defects. Specific responsibility for the planning and delivery of the North Fringe development rests with the local authorities involved, Dublin City Council and Fingal County Council. The North Fringe Framework Development Plan, which was prepared by Dublin City Council in 2000, sets out the objectives for the area, the site context and the urban design framework. The plan emphasised the need for a quality bus service and provision of community facilities, including schools, a library, sports facilities and public spaces, which will serve the anticipated 30,000 people who will ultimately live in the area. Planning permissions in the North Fringe have been granted in line with the framework plan. Under planning legislation, the decision as to whether to grant a plan of an application with or without conditions is a matter for the relevant authority, the first instance, in this case Dublin City Council, and for Board Planal in the case of appeal. I understand the planning permission for mixed-use development was granted by the Council on 19 November 2003, subject to a number of conditions. It is clearly the responsibility of the developer to implement planning permission and to comply with any conditions attaching to that permission. Enforcement of planning control is a matter for the Council, which can take action inter alia where the terms of permission have not been met. I understand that there are ongoing legal proceedings referred to by both deputies being taken by Dublin City Council regarding compliance with this permission, and I have no specific role in the matter. In addition, the National Building Regulations set out the legal requirements for the design and construction of new buildings, including houses, extensions and material alterations, and certain changes of use to existing buildings. The related technical guidance documents provides technical guidance on how to comply with the regulations. Compliance with the regulations is the responsibility of the owner or builder of a building. Enforcement of the regulations is the responsibility of the 37 local building control authorities, who are empowered to carry out inspections and initiate enforcement proceedings where considered necessary. Where building defects occur, the remediation is a matter for the party concerned, namely the building owner, the relevant developer and the builder's insurers, in line with any contractual arrangements agreed between the parties. The general position regarding the use of pyroid in house construction has been set out comprehensively in replies to previous parliamentary questions, most recently on 26 May 2011. The remediation of homes affected by pyroid is also a matter for the parties concerned, and enforcement is essentially a civil matter. I understand the following civil proceedings in relation to homes affected by pyroid in North Dublin. A final settlement was reached and a trust fund established by the developer concerned. In the case of James Elliott Construction Limited versus Irish Asphalt Limited, the judgment issued on 25 May 2011 found Irish Asphalt Limited liable for the supply of defective filler material which is not fit for purpose. Since taking up office, the Minister for the Environment, Community and Local Government has clearly signalled that consumer protection in the area of quality construction of new buildings is a priority matter. In this regard, the Minister is currently considering proposals to reform the building control system. These proposals include the introduction of mandatory certificates of compliance by builders and designers of buildings, demonstrating that the statutory requirements of the building regulations have been met. More efficient pooling of building control staff and resources across the local authority sector to ensure more effective and meaningful oversight of building activity. Standardised approaches and common protocols to ensure nationwide consistency in the administration of building control functions. Measures for the support of further development of the building control function nationwide. The Minister is determined to strengthen the building control system so as to ensure the problems that are currently being experienced are not repeated. I will request, there are a number of important issues raised here by the Deputies this evening, and request Minister Hogan to raise some of these that are within the competence of the Department with Dublin City Council to ascertain the up-to-date position as requested by the Deputies here this evening.